So welcome everybody to the first meeting of 2026. There's a lot of people online and a lot of people in the room. Wow. Starting off the year with a bang. So today we have a fairly packed agenda, but it should go pretty fast anyways. So we have the AGM part of the meeting. So I put it at the beginning so we could move that off. Okay. We'll talk about our financials. Pretty straightforward. Then we'll talk about a motion on auditing our financials. We'll talk about that when we get there. Then we're going to do elections for the board. We have 3 seats to fill. And then Adam's going to talk about a survey that we'll be sending out. Actually, it's ready to go right now. I actually took it a few minutes ago. So after that, we'll talk about EV Ready for the City of Ottawa. So there's a bylaw change that's coming up that mandates a certain amount of parking spaces be EV Ready. And we'll talk about that and what we want to do to change that a bit. Then we'll get to the news as usual, past and future events, and a roundtable. Okay?
In order to not audit these numbers, we need, is it unanimous approval? All members that are present.
I move a motion to approve the the income and financial statements that have been displayed here tonight. Have been shown tonight.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Mike Banks here.
Okay.
Thank you, Craig.
And then the audit is a separate motion. We'll do that.
And
is there anybody
who... all in favor, raise your hands. All in the room seems to be in favor. I suppose if anyone is not in favor online...
We're raising our hands online, and it looks like
I do see hands being raised online. I'm not sure I saw everyone raise their hand, but I'm also not hearing any objections.
I think that's fine. I'm not sure it has to be unanimous. But it definitely has to be a majority, a super majority. I think a 2/3 majority is fine. So
okay,
I think we'll be good with that. So may I move the next motion? I move that we adopt that we do not have an audit of the books and that we continue with the current process of providing open access.
I second that motion. Did everyone hear that? That we move to not audit the books. And if anyone would like to see the books in further detail, that's certainly open. Right. All in favor of not having an audit? Very good. All in the room, yes. And I see many hands online, at least 2/3.
Yep, there's at least 10, 12 now.
Anyone opposed, please speak now or raise your hand. Well, verbally, please speak.
No. Okay. I think it's safe to consider that motion carried.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, bank account this year. Is that something that you predict might happen again, or is that just because there was a large printing cost or something else?
So we used to have a reserve of about $15,000, and we've been chewing through it gradually over the years intentionally, because just having the money there, not sitting there doing nothing, is not going to help anything, right? If we could get more funds through donations and our membership fees, we'd be happy to do that. But so we may have to at some point start raising money to be able to do what we do. Okay, because the fees, the membership fees barely cover the insurance, right? So everything else we have to pay out of reserves, right?
Yeah, there are certain things we might, like for example, at the carp fair, that costs us a certain chunk of money. So we may have to consider whether or not we want to exhibit there next year or this year.
On the printing side, we printed some posters to say that This attraction is powered by an EV type of thing. I can't remember exactly what it says. So that we did that. We also printed some polo shirts that we paid most of it, but EVCO paid, I think, $20 each,
Which is a one-time
So-
expense.
which is a one-time expense. Yeah. Did you-
Just wondering, in terms of donations, you mentioned, you
Mhm.
don't by any chance have any charitable status to,
No, we do not, unfortunately. Okay.
just wondering.
I wish we had, but we don't know. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Well, there's conditions and all that, right? So if you're a charitable organization, one of the things you're not allowed to do is lobby the government. Okay, so that's really the problem. Okay, so I'd love to have it charitable, but to save a bit of money for everybody, but
Can we make it a political party? Because then we can lobby and collect donations.
So on to the board stuff. So do you want to step up?
Yeah, sure. Where's the camera? Where can people see me? Oh, there. Hi. There. People can see me here. Hello. No, yeah, they can see me. Okay. So our board, we elect people for 2-year terms. So we have 3 terms coming up this AGM. Kristen Fiddler and Lawrence Maroon have both served for 2 years. And thank you very much, both Kristen and Lawrence. They've decided not to stand for re-election. So Mike Banks is also up for re-election. Oh, sorry. Okay, hang on. So yes, big thank you to Kristen and Lawrence. So the people who are still on the board for the remainder of their 2-year term would be Raymond, Henry, myself, Ryan, and Carl. So we need to elect 3 directors. Mike Banks is going to stand again. I don't know how many times he's been on the executive, but he's a cool guy, so I think we should vote for him.
It's been a few times. I'll put on my camera so you can see me. There we go.
And so we have 2 new people seeking election, and that is James Rafi right here and Lynn Lefebvre, who's been helping us with our AV stuff here for the last few months. So, I mean, this is my first AGM because the last 2 years I've been someplace sunnier. So what do I say? Just like, okay, oh, that's right. We have to accept nominations from the floor. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate themselves or propose? Okay, so no other people who'd like to stand or nominations from the floor? Going once? Going twice? All right, sold. So that means we can acclaim Mike, James, and Lynn.
Yes.
All right, welcome to the executive. And so then the way it works is we will, at the first executive meeting in 2 weeks, we will choose positions, and that's when we all get to try to depose Raymond for president. But he has won the arm wrestling matches every year so far. So we'll see. Maybe this year. And survey. Oh, see, I've lost focus now, and then I can't advance anymore.
Yeah, just click on Excel or PowerPoint.
Yep. Okay, so the survey. Everyone who can hear me now, hello. Everyone who can hear me, including those of you in YouTube, this is very important. Please do our survey. You saw from the financial statement, the only money we got this year was from members. That's y'all. Everyone in the room here, everyone online, I can see you through the camera. So please, we've put the survey up. It's at evco.ca/survey. Oh, you made it a hyperlink and now it's really hard to see. Anyway, that's a QR code too. You can scan the QR code. That'll take you there. evco.ca/survey. It's a quick survey. It'll only take a few minutes. There's 12 questions, exactly 12 questions. Some of them you can skip if you have to. But they're just going to ask, how do you like EVCO? Is there anything we can do to be doing better for you? And importantly, what do you think we should be doing? If we are wholly funded by membership dues, we need to make sure that we're doing what the membership wants. And maybe the membership has really good ideas of places to go and events to go to. So that's one of them. If there's events in your area that you'd like us to attend, please suggest that, and we'll see what we can do. The survey is going to be open for 2 weeks, so we better get this YouTube up quick, because if we're seeing this after February 9th, the survey is closed. That is our executive meeting. So I'll close it in the afternoon just before the meeting. I'll correlate all the responses and we'll review it at the executive meeting. So please take some time, go do the survey. Tell us. Good, bad, I don't care. I want to hear from you.
This
So
part
one of the
won't be
questions-
on, yeah, this part won't be on YouTube because it's the member only part for the annual meeting. Right.
No, it's just the financials that I'll
Oh, okay,
remove.
okay.
Okay. Okay, so because we don't want just anybody to see the financials, right? But anybody here who wants to see them, you're more than happy to show them to you, okay? So there is a question that says, what do you think we should be doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's something that you personally want to do, okay? So for example, if you don't like to do test drives, it doesn't mean you can't say that we should do test drives, right? Okay, it's not about what you personally want to do, but what you think we should be doing, okay? So some people don't like to speak publicly, others speak too much publicly, pointing at myself. So, if it's something speaking publicly, I have no problems doing it, but other people have problems doing that, right? So, okay? So feel free to suggest anything that comes up.
Local groups, not even like community fairs in the summer, but like Blackburn Hamlet Discovery Cafes. It's weekly, monthly, and it's a local thing where people come and talk about things. So if there's a local thing in your area where people come and talk about things, we'd be very happy to come and talk about electrification and electric vehicles and all kinds of stuff. We have plenty of speakers who are willing to go to these events.
So if you're part of a club or something, be happy to go. So we've done Rotary presentations before and a few other things. So
Isn't Rotary at like 6 a.m. though?
it's usually breakfast. Yeah. So
That's early.
it's early for me
Okay.
too, but I make a point of trying to get up.
So I think that's me. So yes, please go do the survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, let's talk about EV Ready in Ottawa. And I don't have quite the call to action, but we may email you something in a couple of days about this. So just to tell you a bit what's been happening. So there's a zoning bylaw amendment that's been in the works for several years, actually. Okay, so most of the content of the amendments has nothing to do with EVs. It has to do with zoning, minimum zoning. So this includes that every property in Ottawa, from what my understanding is, every property in Ottawa will be eligible to have a 3-story building on it. Okay, so they're trying to intensify the core. So that's part of what they're doing there. They're doing all sorts of other things with changes to specific zoning for specific areas. It's a real mishmash of stuff. However, there is one thing they introduced in there that we're very happy about. It's the EV Ready requirement. And what does EV Ready mean? It means that you have a plug that has power to it. Okay. Why do we want a plug that has power to it? If there's power to the plug, that means everything else in the back, the panel, transformer, breakers, switches, all of that has to be in place for that switch to be energized. Okay. So this is the section of the zoning bylaw that pertains to EV readiness, section 611 2A. So in the latest version of the draft, the one that's going to be approved at council, if nothing is done with a motion to change it, is this here. So 25% of the spaces provided or an equivalent, see right here, or an equivalent must be designed as electric vehicle parking spaces capable of supporting level 2. Okay, they had originally a provision for level 1. I fought to get rid of that The reason for that, if you're retrofitting, level 1 might have a role because you might have plugs you could reuse, right? But for new stuff, we shouldn't be encouraging level 1. And knowing that developers tend to want to save money, my guess would have been that all of the plugs would have been level 1. Okay, so that's why we fought to get rid of that. But originally, that 25% was 100%. Okay. So, yeah, so, and only the plug is specified, not the charging station. Okay? We don't want people to buy charging stations today for a car that they'll be charging in 5 years. Okay?
Raymond?
Yep.
Did we get any clarity on plugs? Because we had talked about this before and we didn't know whether it was specified and we didn't want to get into like this, it must be USB-C kind of thing. Like, is it in the bylaw? It has to be 1450 or something?
Currently, it is not. It just says level 2. Okay? So that sort of steals a bit of what I'm going to talk about later. Level 2 goes from 16 amp to 80 amp. And I think actually NACS goes higher than that, but regardless, given that 16 amp is the minimum, I would be concerned that some developers might choose to provide 20 amp circuits for 16 amp plugs, right? Okay. So that's covered later. Okay. So the future proofing, so we don't want a charging station because we know the technology is going to improve. We know that vehicle to grids are coming along. I expect the price of charging stations to go down over time. It's like everything else that's starting to be popular. They should be less expensive. The warranty may expire before you're using it. So just don't buy it right now. Buy it when you have an EV. Okay. So original draft had 100%. The feedback from developers is that doing 100% is too costly and that the zoning bylaw amendments require a lot of other things that will cost developers something. Okay, so the pushback is, well, eliminate what you can to make it cheaper for us. So this is what they did. They brought this down to 25%. Okay. We shopped around trying to bring this back to 100%, and there seems to be no support on council, particularly with the mayor, to do this. Okay, so I had never done any thinking about what can we do with 25%, and I started thinking about it, and I came up with an idea. So, oh, by the way, Councillor Dudas, she got approved a motion to reduce the review period from 5 years to 3 years. So in the bylaw, it says after 5 years, they're going to review that 25% number. Okay, she brought it down to 3 years. Okay, not a huge difference, but still helpful. Okay. So here, I've got a pretty terrible picture here. So this is a random parking that I found on the internet because I just wanted an example layout. Okay. So there's 84 parking spots in there. If you count them all up, there's 84. And 25% of them need to be electrified. So that's 21 outlets. Okay. So green represents a green dot there represents the electrical room, and the red dots represent where the developer would be likely to put the plugs. Okay, you want to put them close to the electrical room because that means less conduit, less wiring, etc. Right, less cost. Okay, so this is what I would expect developers to do. Well, if you have a parking lot way up here, you got a problem, right? You don't have anything near that you could use to put a plug, right? So this becomes a problem, right? Okay, enough about that. Is there? Oh, yes. So so in many condos, the parking spot is actually deeded to the unit. Okay, so if you want to swap parking spots with someone, so if you want to you buy an EV and you want to get a parking space that's around here, you would have to do a legal change to the deed to be able to do that. Okay, it's just prohibitively expensive and just a pain in the butt, right? So we want to avoid that kind of stuff. And even if the condo or the landlord has the right to reassign parking lots or parking spots, you probably know that parking spots closer to the elevator or closer to other amenities are preferred, right? So you know that's likely to result in some kind of friction, right? So why not avoid all that by doing something better? Okay, so you'll see. Yep. Question, Terry?
Yes, did anyone consider that one of the biggest expenses is especially in concrete is to have conduit available, but not pull the wire through it, so that you could add sites. Instead of 100%, you could have 5 or 25% is wired, and another 25% is ready to pull the wire, but no wire included and no connections. It's just a conduit laid.
So that is a possibility to mandate conduit, but that becomes somewhat complicated. And I think that what I'm going to show you on the next slide or the slide after, you'll see that it solves that problem too. Okay.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yep.
So a bit of background stuff here. So we did a lot of work with condos to figure out how much it would cost to retrofit. And the problem is, especially with larger condos, is, you know, you could maybe put a plug for 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 people with the existing panel, but at some point you'll run out of capacity. So you have to add panels, you have to add conduit, you have to add transformers, switches, and all that, and that's expensive, right? So putting those components in place is very expensive, so you want to avoid doing that. Okay. You want to have it done in advance. Okay. And if you're doing it as a retrofit, it's typically about 4 times more expensive than doing it at initial construction. Okay. So the first person that wants to charge an EV would have to do a big investment to pay the common elements, or you'd have to get the stingy condo boards. So a lot of condo boards are very thrifty for good reason. It's their money. They don't want to spend money they don't have to. They may not agree to put this common infrastructure in place because they don't see the benefit, right? So if you look at the cost, and we've done a lot of assessment of condos and the cost of various components. So the last mile, that refers to the portion of the infrastructure that's dedicated to one parking spot. So it's your charging station, the plug, the conduit, and the wire that brings you to the first common element. Okay? That's what we refer to as the last mile. Typically, that costs 30 to 50% of the total cost. Okay? And this is what the developers don't want to pay right now. Okay? That being said, if you're going to add a charging station, we recommended they be hardwired. So that means you need an electrician anyways. So if you have to do a bit more work, it's not a very large incremental cost for that. Okay, so you don't get a big saving by doing them all in advance. See what I mean? Okay. So the common elements, though, these are the ones that are a problem. So depending on the situation, it's 50 to 70% of the cost, right? So what you want to do as much as possible is have all of this stuff in place when they build the building, and some of the other stuff, we'll leave it out. Okay. So what does that look like? So what we want to do is spread the outlets throughout the parking. Okay. So if you look at the red dots where the outlets are, they're spread all over the place. They're at every 4th parking space. Okay. Why 4? Because it's very common to use one circuit shared between a bunch of charging stations, and 4 is not an issue at all. Okay, there's a guy in BC who's an electrical engineer, and he has an actuary. His brother's an actuary, and they did modeling of whether you had enough time to charge cars overnight, given a certain average commute time for the people in the building. And what he determined is that with his example, which was a relatively short commute, if they could support 8 or 9 cars on the same circuit, and 90% of the time they would all get the full charge. Okay, so here we're specifying 4, well within that, so there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so but this means here, so you were talking, Terry, about conduits and all that. That means that there would be conduit that would go right to the end here, right to the last dots, and on this side too. Okay, so we wouldn't need any more common conduit. All the common stuff would be in place. Okay, so next spot. There we are. So the other thing we specified is a 208 or 240 volt 50 amp circuit. So we mentioned before that 16 amp is level 2. right? Or level 2 could be 16 amp. We don't want that. We wouldn't want a 16 amp circuit up here to supply 4 different parking spaces around there. Okay, so we specified that 208. Why 208? In commercial settings, there's often 208, so we didn't want to exclude it, right? We're trying to make sure we don't paint people into a corner, right? We want to make sure we're doing things that are reasonable, right? So the circuits could be shared in the future, right? And like I said, all the common elements would be deployed at initial build, okay? All the big costs and all the stuff that's hard to do would be done already. Okay, so if you have a spot that's not served, all you'd have to do is add a wire and a conduit wire and put your charging station. So this sort of illustrates what it would look like. I'll show you a picture that shows it a bit better after. But so you'd have one plug, existing plug. You would put a wire between that one and the next one, put a charger there, and go on like that. Okay, so you'd have one plug to serve up to 4 parking spots. Okay. Questions at this point? Make sense? Yes.
I guess hard to describe, but say that red dot, what if the person 2 spots over suddenly gets an electric vehicle? How do you deal with that? Would you still have to, like, is it connecting serially or like, how does it work?
So that is a very good question. My understanding is they would be connected serially. Okay, they would be connected serially. So you would string them from one to the other. But bottom line is that's a detail that's not so important at this point. But I'll show you what it looks like a bit more in the next slide, I think it is. So anyways, okay, so this is what it would look like. So at build, you have 4 parking spots and you have 1 plug, okay? So this here, for those who are know this stuff, this is a 15 NEMA 1450, so 50 amp circuit. This supports 40 amp of charging, right? So if you want to provide charging in the next spot, you would do this. Okay, so you would add a conduit, put the charging station, okay? But the wire here would have to go down to the bottom here, okay? Now, for those who are going to get picky about the thing, in reality, if this was done, I believe we would have to condemn this temporarily at least, because you always want to be sure that the equipment that's on a circuit can never exceed the capacity of the circuit. Okay, so everything else being equal, someone could put a mobile charger in here, charge at 40 amp like my car could do, and someone else is charging at 40 amp and the breaker flips, right? Okay, so, but that's, again, that's a detail. So what you would do for the other car, you do like that same thing again. Okay, as simple as that. And actually, in fact, the wire might go this way instead. You know, those are details, but you would just add what you need. If you're doing the last car here first, well, you add everything that's there, and then afterwards you splice it in. Okay?
But can I interrupt for a second, Raven?
What was that, Alan?
Yeah, just before you show this to city councils or whatever, like talk to an electrician and have them sanction what you're displaying there, because I don't think that would meet electrical code at all.
So, well, so the way I described it there with the plug and all that, there's an issue there, but yes.
Yeah,
it would need to-
Raymond was just missing the
Yeah.
load management layer,
Yeah.
but you can absolutely do this.
Yeah.
The chargers just have to be networked, so you can get
Yep.
like even like Tesla chargers can do this, and there's others that can as well. You get, you know, so they'd have to be compatible with that. So that's, you know, kind of restricts which charger you can get. But as long as that's taken into consideration, you can just get 4 chargers, hook them up to each other, and program them to say, make sure you don't all draw more than 40 amps at a time, which is going to be the limit on a 50 amp circuit. Now, unfortunately, like I think this is a pretty good plan, because you know it doesn't raise the like percentage by too much. It would be even better if you could get it to every 3rd spot instead of every 4th spot. Like I feel like every 3rd would actually be really, really strong, because keep in mind with 208 volt circuits, once you account for a realistic amount of voltage drop under load, it's going to be about 200 volts. At 40 amps is what you're going to be able to actually draw on a 50 amp circuit. That's 8 kilowatts divided by 4 is 2. So that's like not that much more than level 1 charging.
Okay, so two comments there. First comment is, yes, I spoke to an electrician, Alan. I had a lengthy discussion with Sam about this, and the diagram may not be correct there, but you can do this. And like Lawrence said, this would imply that you're using some software to manage the charging. It would imply also that the charging stations are compatible with one another, okay, so that they could work together. The other comment about 1 in 3, the problem there is if we put 1 in 3, that would mean we would have to change the 25% number, and we do not want to change the 25% number because some people told us they don't want to change it. Okay, so what we're proposing is what's here. So the 25 stays, but it would add distributed evenly throughout the parking facility. Okay, and a 50 amp circuit. Okay.
So the 50 amp circuit with a 50 amp receptacle, it looks like the 50 amp receptacle is just an arbitrary placeholder. You don't
Yes.
actually expect to use the 50 amp receptacle.
So the code.
But you have it there and it's live. So it's to ensure that the circuit is live.
Yes.
And then once you install chargers, basically you remove that 50 amp
Yes.
receptacle. Okay.
Yeah, you probably put a plate on it
Okay.
until you put a charging
Okay.
station
So
in.
now I understand
Okay.
that. And what's the expectation of the billing for these things?
I don't talk about that at all because that's the type of stuff you don't put in the bylaw.
No,
right?
okay, okay, no, no, but I
So-
mean, what's envisioned or?
But if you want to know how you would do that, so the vast majority of level 2 charging stations have the ability to meter the electricity that goes to every vehicle. So you just use that to determine what you should charge back to people. The other thing that I think should be adopted by most condos is just included in the condo fees. Make it simple. Okay, a lot of condos, the heating and the electricity is part of the condo fees, just including condo fees. Forget about the rest because it's administrative overhead, right? Or you could charge a flat fee, right?
Okay,
Lynn,
can
what's
I
up?
have just a quick follow-up question? So I've noticed that smaller condo units, like 4 to 8 unit condos,
Mhm.
they often have a circuit dedicated to each unit, but that's wired to the breaker panel in each unit.
Yes.
And then the billing just happens automatically. But,
Yeah, and that's
but
the
large
equiv-
condos, I guess you don't have that.
Yeah,
ability.
so in a large condo, there'll be a meter, well, it depends on the situation, but if the owner or the tenant pays for electricity, there'll be a meter per unit, right? But often the meters are on like the 10th floor, serving for the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th floors, okay? So getting a wire down there to the parking spot is just not practical, okay? And actually probably not possible because the losses of that distance would be problematic, right? Okay? Yes, Lynn.
I just wanted to mention that what we're noticing in our neighborhood anyway, with the new apartment buildings coming online, the EV spots that are being put in
Mhm.
are a flat rate.
Yeah.
So you pay a monthly fee and that gets you your EV charging.
Yeah, that's much easier to administer, right? So, and there's a number of condos we work with that had, they had 120 volt plugs, right? Block heater plugs. They're using that, but there's no off the shelf stuff that will allow you to meter 120 volt. So using a flat rate makes that so much easier, right? Okay, so that.
I mean,
yes.
reality is, if Raymond, your cost, when you look at sort of the cost to sort of put all this in, I mean, you're talking thousands of dollars sort of per spot. I don't know what most people, experience is, but I don't know if I've even in my own home, I don't think I've used in the 4 years as much electricity as I've used, as it cost me to put all my all the wires in and put my own home plug in, and that was a cheaper setup than what this is likely to be. So, most of your cost is actually going to be sort of having the spots ready to go. Once they're ready to go, the electricity is almost dirt cheap, especially at night these days.
So I'm having trouble to understand is that what you were saying there. Was there a question that I could answer? Because I missed most of
Well,
it.
I think that wasn't really a question. It was just sort of more of a statement that I think that the cost is in the getting it ready. The first person to plug in, that's a huge cost. The amount of
Yep.
electricity they're going to actually use is immaterial. It's the ability to actually plug that's costly.
Yeah. So this strategy here would avoid that because everything that's a common piece of infrastructure would be already in place, right? So everything that makes the first one expensive would already be done. Okay. So, yep.
Now, the one thing I will say, I think you're sort of trying to balance everything. You are costing the developer a lot more money. You are having them have to conduit out to many more locations. Like the cost to sort of provide that many locations that for all over the parking lot will be more than if you're just doing the
it will
closest
be more.
25.
Yeah, it will be more, but it'll be marginally more because it'll be the conduit plus the wire that there will be longer. Okay, so it's going to be marginally more expensive. Okay, and I think if we could get the common stuff in place when you build the building, it makes things going forward so much easier. And with the way the bylaw is written right now, the concern I have is that people would do things like put one circuit for four parking spots and stuff like that, right? So this would eliminate that. So the rationale, all the common elements, like I said, so it avoids installing 75% of the last mile components. So this would be somewhere probably around 40% of the overall cost of if you were going to do 100%. Okay, so you get rid of that portion of the cost. Yeah, so I already talked about the 16 amp stuff. And here 100% becomes a moot point. So like I said earlier, there's an amendment to make the review period 3 years instead of 5. But really, when you look at what other jurisdictions have done, so in BC, just about every municipality requires 100%. They have some technical direction as to how you could implement that. Okay. And that includes sharing circuits. Okay. So in fact, we'd be more or less at the same place as what the 100% guys are, but we'd be missing just the last mile for 3/4 of the spots. Okay. So, so that's it. Any other questions about that?
Yeah, Raymond, I had a question. Is there any way you could work out the marginal increase in cost from having all the plugs nearby distributed? Because I can't imagine it actually would be that much.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
If they've already agreed to have to put in for 25% and you want your spread out version versus the consolidated version all in one end of the parking lot, there must be a way of figuring out what the marginal cost on an average or an example would be. I can't imagine it would actually be that much different. I mean, it's obviously going to be more, but I think it would be helpful to know what you're talking about economically, so you know what you're arguing for.
Yeah, so if you make a bunch of assumptions that I've made, and I haven't confirmed this with Sam, but I believe the marginal cost would be somewhere between $25 and $50 per parking spot. Okay, so here you're just lengthening conduits and putting longer wires, right? Now, if a developer was going to find a way of to do a shortcut, so put 20 amp circuits instead, stuff like that, then the additional cost would be a bit higher. Okay.
So I think if you that's pretty compelling that it's not that much different. I think that you should definitely get the economics worked out, that for sure.
Yeah.
So well, just arguing on vague.
You see, the problem is if you're doing it in retrofit, it's literally 4 times the cost, right? And we believe that it won't be that long that we're going to need that the charging infrastructure. Plus, I talked about the deeding of the parking spaces. Having 25% of the spaces covered doesn't mean that the person who wants to own an EV has an energized outlet at their spot, right? This makes it
No, I'm
easy
completely
for them
with
to
you. I'm
get
just
there.
saying, I'm
right?
just saying you should, I'm completely with you. I'm just saying that it would be really helpful to have good economic costing on the difference
Yeah.
between having,
Yeah,
will
yeah,
make it more compelling, because if you're right, to have the developer, you embarrass the developer if it's only 25 or $50 per spot. Come on.
yeah. The challenge with getting an estimate is that the vote is on Wednesday, and we're late on Monday. Okay, so so we have some rough estimates only at this point. Yes, Adam.
Yeah, so what's the action? You started this with, well, we shopped around an amendment for 100% and there was no interest. Have you shopped this one around? Like, how do we even get this in front of council?
Okay, forgot to mention all that. So we've talked to a bunch of councillors, and we're working with cafes on this. Okay, so Angela Keller Herzog, we're working with them to talk to she talked to the mayor's office. She's talked to a bunch of other councillors. Ryan and I on Saturday morning we met Councillor Devine, and Councillor King was working on some of this. So there's a bunch of different councillors that were talked to and all that. But so the idea is that Councillor Devine has written a motion that includes what I have here, and looks pretty solid. Okay, so what he's doing is shopping it around with his colleagues to see what kind of support he would get. There's a lot of councillors that would support it automatically, right? Menard, Curie, a whole bunch of others. But there's others that may be more reluctant, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. We're just going to hope for the best, I guess. So the action, I don't know yet. So it depends on how things turn out. So we're waiting for feedback from Councillor Devine. And if Councillor Devine says, well, I've talked to these councillors and, they seem to be amenable to this, what we'll want to do is have people reach out to their councillors and say, hey, there's this motion coming up. Please support it. We really want you to do that, right? So, okay. Yes.
Does the motion have a name that we can easily refer to?
I don't know. That's a good question. Eh? Yes. So I'll let you know when I do know if there is something that we could do. Again, the vote is during the day on Wednesday, and we're Monday night, right? So we don't have that much time to reach out, but look for an email potentially the next day. Okay.
Which brings up something I meant to mention during the survey portion. Please add info@evco.ca to your address book. We're trying a new mailing system, and some mails may be getting lost. And so, especially for this super time sensitive one, please add info@evco.ca to your address book, so it should not get filtered.
Would that be the only address to put in? Is that the address that
That's the address it uses.
that
Yeah.
Ryan is using? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Perfect. Okay, so again, the action, not sure yet. Change of topic. So there's a few postdocs from Carleton U that reached out to us, and they got some money from NRCan, and they want to do education, public education. So not exactly sure how that's going to turn out, but they want to address the issue of charging on the road in particular. So which adapters do I need? If I've got a Hyundai versus a VW or a Tesla, what are the differences, right? So I'm talking to them. I talked to them today about that, and we may do things like the short videos that you did for the adapters. We may do something similar to that with them. We'll see what the scope is. Okay. Just a heads up on that. So, Lawrence, the news.
Yeah. All right. So starting off with some unfortunate news, but I promise you it's mostly uphill from here. Some prominent EV pullbacks in the past couple of months. F-150 Lightning canceled, and the Bolt not entirely canceled, but confirmed that they're going to be running a limited production run for only 18 months. And then the factory that's making it is going to be repurposed to build a gas Buick vehicle that's currently being built in China. I guess they want to, well, maybe, maybe that means they're going to repurpose their China plant for an EV. Who knows? Personally, I'm not too crazy pessimistic about this. They did, even when they announced the original refresh of the Bolt, when they originally announced the 2027 Bolt, they were pretty clear that this was sort of a tide over until they had fully developed a second gen platform based small EV. So that could still be coming. And there's also some recent statements from Mary Barra saying she still believes that EVs are the company's end game. She's just pushing the dates out a bit farther. And actually, there were some similar comments from Ford leadership and even Stellantis. But I didn't throw that in the news because it just wasn't really significant enough. But I thought I'd comment on it. I mean, we can move on to the next story. Big story. I'm sure everyone's heard about this, but I thought I'd share all the details in case anyone didn't have the details. So obviously, as part of our recent trade deal with China, we've cut the 100% tariff, but only for the first 49,000 vehicles per year. So presumably anything above that would still have to pay the 100% tariff. Also keep in mind that tariffs are paid when the vehicle lands on our shores. It's not at the time of sale to the end consumer. So somebody could ship 49,000 vehicles like next week and just like hog the quota. Now, whether that'll actually happen probably depends on if China decides to control the export on their end. And, that's going to have a huge influence over the mix of vehicles that we're going to see. Because if China doesn't do anything to control who gets to use up this quota, there's a good chance that for this first year at least, we're mostly just going to be seeing more Volvos, Polestars, and Teslas, because they already have their supply chain set up to bring their cars to North America. The Polestar 2 is coming here before the tariff came in place. In fact, Tesla has already taken down the Model 3 configurator on their Canadian website, and they're only selling inventory because previously they were selling Chinese-made Model 3s here. Now they're selling Model Ys that are from the European plant because those aren't being hit by our retaliatory USA tariffs. Anyway, we probably are going to see them to start moving cars here, but they haven't updated their sales site yet because they're likely working with whatever other stakeholders, the Chinese government, for example, to see if they can actually bring those cars over or not. Another detail of the plan is that the 49,000 unit count is actually going to rise to 70,000 after 5 years. And the government's also working on building business relationships so that Chinese manufacturers could actually set up factories here. They're actually quite intent on that. There was even another article, actually, I might have put it in the presentation, where there was a confidential source from inside the government saying that they were working on a project and getting kind of hands-on into it. So hopefully we will see that, and kind of shutting up the naysayers who say this is going to cost jobs. I mean, if anything, it could be bringing us jobs, because with what's going on with America, I mean, those USA manufacturers could be leaving, shutting down factories here. I mean, heck, in our last news segment, we were talking about how GM was shutting down the Brightrop plant. So someone's got to fill that space. I suppose we can move to the next story. Oh yeah, and the tariff lift, it's already effective. So on our end, there was no phase-in date. Someone could bring a car in tomorrow, but it hasn't happened yet.
Have you heard anything about what the tariff is past the 49,000?
So no. So yeah, I assume it's 100%, but I haven't actually seen anyone confirm that. But yeah, it's probably 100%.
I would also add half the quota is for vehicles under 35,000.
By 2030, there's supposed to be half, yeah. Not, I don't think it's year one, it's by 2030. Okay. Okay, next slide.
So yeah, this story was kind of interesting. So some of you may have heard the quote that when a metric becomes a goal, it ceases to be a useful metric. And the reason we're seeing some odd stuff happening at Tesla is because of Elon's $1 trillion pay package, which stipulates certain sales figures. Oh yeah, by the way, in case you didn't realize how ridiculous his pay package is, his pay package sets a goal for him to sell 20 million cars, and then the pay package is for $1 trillion. So that, if you divide 1 trillion by 20 million, that's 50,000. So he wants to be personally paid $50,000 for every single car that's sold. That's like the cost of the whole car. How does that make any sense? That makes no sense. That's way too much money. That was just a side note, but yeah, it seems like he's just trying to suck it dry. One of his other metrics in the pay package is to increase FSD subscriptions by a certain amount. And so he's getting rid of the ability to buy FSD outright, and you're only going to be able to subscribe. And now he's also canceling basic autopilot, which is crazy because you can buy a base model Toyota Corolla and it has something similar to basic autopilot. At least it has lane centering, right, and radar cruise control. So the good news for existing Tesla owners is you're not going to lose this capability in your car. You're going to get grandfathered. But if you buy a new Tesla, even today, unless it's an inventory model, if you buy a new one, it will just have regular cruise control. And if you want anything more than that, you'll have to pay $100 a month for FSD. Crazy. Yeah, don't buy a Tesla.
And neither of those, neither the adaptive cruise control or the lane keep assist was working for some period yesterday on my car, because in clear weather it was telling me that visibility was poor. Anyways, it's like the wipers.
Norway hitting new highs, 96% EV market share in 2025, and the other 4% was pretty much all just like specialty stuff like sports cars and a few holdouts. Despite decreasing popularity of Elon Musk, surprisingly, Tesla was actually the most popular brand in Norway with 19% market share. Don't expect that trend to continue in 2026, but I thought that was interesting. One of the things that's made EVs so popular is that they're sort of exempt from most taxes that would be applicable to ICE cars. Now that they've reached nearly 100% market share, they're going to start phasing out those programs, but apparently they're going to keep a lot of those tax exemptions in place for smaller cars in particular, because they want to incentivize people to get smaller cars. So that's kind of the news on Norway, not much else to say.
Ken, you have your hand up? Is it accidental, or do you have a comment or question? Ken?
I think it's been up for a while. I think he just left it up.
Okay.
Wait, is this a success story that shows that EVs work in both the winter and when you incentivize something that you want, people buy it?
Well, Norway
looks
is
that way.
Norway is
Also,
quite
that's
special.
an oddly shaped S curve is what it looks like.
It's kind of an S, yeah.
Yeah, but Norway started very early, and Norway, because they don't have an auto industry, they charge a high tariff for all the cars. What they decided to do is to waive that for EVs. So EVs became less expensive than ICE vehicles early on. Okay, so that's one of the reasons it went so fast.
What an idea.
Yeah, what's interesting is that if you look at that graph, they're basically 9 or 10 years ahead of us in terms of the market saturation numbers that we're currently at, including they even had a dip in 2016, you'll see, which they recovered from. So, graphs, they don't always just go in a straight line. Real life throws you curveballs.
Yeah, and by the way,
but yeah, hopefully, this is what we're going to look like in 10 years.
So by the way, one of the things we didn't mention earlier is the Chinese cars. That's Chinese EVs that had a tariff on them, not Chinese cars. So there are Chinese models, the North American brand models that are built in China, shipped over here, that are gas cars, okay? Volvo ES90, I believe. There's the Lincoln Nautilus, and what's the other one? Buick Envision, I think, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's pretty.
gas cars that were not subject to this tariff. Okay.
That's true. I mean, it's pretty silly that you would ever like tariff something that you want to have more of, like, and then not tariff the count. Like, they should have just tariffed all Chinese cars, not just the EVs.
They tariff the EVs because the incumbent automakers here can't compete with EVs, but they're
Yeah.
happy to keep the gas cars coming because they don't want EVs.
Well, well, they're happy to keep the gas cars coming because they themselves, like GM, builds gas cars in China and then brings them here. And yeah,
Exactly.
the Chinese could, like, BYD makes gas cars as well, or at least they used to. But like, so China could have sold Chinese branded gas cars here if they wanted to, but they don't because they're not trying to expand and invest in that technology. More China news. So they're officially going to ban retractable door handles, and the rule takes effect January 2027. You could still have door handles that are like kind of recessed. It basically just stipulates that the mechanism has to be mechanical. But yeah, from both inside and outside to make it easier for people to extract someone from a car that's been in an accident. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to have, especially because like a lot of people don't even realize there are manual backups. Like most cars that have electronic door handles, including Teslas, actually do have manual handles on the inside of the car as well, but most people don't even know where they are because they never use them.
You shouldn't have to. There's one door handle. That's the mechanical one on the inside, Tesla.
Actually, I found out the override. I found out where it was by accident because my brother didn't know how to get out, and he pulled that thing, and it. yeah. So is that? There's another one here.
U.S. judge rules NEVI suspension was unlawful, but it's unclear what's going to really come of it. I mean, Trump's government isn't really like abiding anything anyone tells them to do, so the judge told them this. Like, who knows what's actually going to happen. Also, they could still cancel the infrastructure program if they vote on it in Congress, and they've already had a bill passed to redirect 879 million of the total 5 billion, which has cleared the House, and it's going to a Senate vote like this week. So, I mean, a good result from the judge, but might not really result in any impact, unfortunately. I think we may have a couple more stories. What's the next slide? Yeah, I've heard like some narratives, people saying, oh, like, actually, PHEVs are so popular in China, but the numbers don't really seem to bear that out because last year BEVs were more popular than PHEVs. Sorry, there's a typo here. The first bullet point should say 2024, and the second bullet point is 2025. So in 2024, BEVs were more popular than PHEVs, 57 compared to 43%. But that's only looking at the month of November. Sorry, this article didn't have statistics for the whole year. But if you're comparing, month to month yearly changes, in 2025 that rose to 73% versus 27, which is a pretty huge jump. You know, when you have 19 million charging stalls, apparently, that includes AC stalls. You have chargers that can reach 1 megawatt, cars with, you know, 700 kilometers of range. Like, why would you want to have two drivetrains? And that seems to be the logic, and it's, you know, bearing out in the with the consumers. Yeah, might have been the last story. Next slide. Oh, okay, actually, this one is the last one. This one was just cool. BMW releasing another Neue class car soon, probably. This time a sedan, which is nice. You get all the maximum aerodynamics. Now, for those who don't know, the iX3 is the first Neue class vehicle that BMW's released, and it came with like absolutely top end capabilities, like 400 miles, 400 kilowatt charging, everything. And this car is going to be based on the same platform. They put actually a ton of effort into some of the driver engagement features. So similar to the Ioniq 5N, it has optional engine sounds that you can engage. And if you look at the source, you can hear them for yourself. But I thought they actually sounded pretty amazing. Because I'm gonna be honest, the Ioniq 5N, which I've sat inside of, the engine sounds kind of sounded really fake. But I don't think that's an inherent limitation of the technology. It's just, you know, you have to like use good speakers, use good source material, like actually put the effort in, and it's cool to see BMW doing that. I think it's going to be a really, really, really fun car. All right, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Any questions about the news before we go on? No? Okay. So let's talk about past and future events. There we go. So the only thing we've done lately is the Kilwin Coffee. So we've been going around town, Canada, Nepean, and Orleans, and then back again. And we did that also in January. And okay, upcoming events. Come on. There we go. Okay, so we'll have the meeting here next month on February 23rd, the monthly meeting. Kilwin and coffee, so Starbucks on Saturday, and then again, we're going to rotate through the various, the three venues, okay?
It doesn't have to be Starbucks. There's a Timmy's and an A&W.
Yeah. But I found that at Luna Crepes and Cafe, we get a lot of people. So it's, I was surprised that we got that many. We're going to have to increase the size, like
yeah, we'll keep it in we'll keep it in the roster, and then in the spring we'll use the patio because they have a big patio there.
Yeah, the patio is quite nice. So okay. So not very much other to say about new upcoming events. There are two events that are not EVCO specific that I want to mention here. So this Thursday, there is an event at Bayview Yards, and it's organized by Cafes, and they'll have some pretty interesting people. Devish Shishpal, he's from Blue Wave AI. And of course, Angelo will be there. And Michael Bernard is a guy I've spoken about before. He writes a lot about technology, and they'll be talking about BESS and the future of energy in Ontario. Okay, and there'll be a complimentary lunch buffet. So if you come for anything, it's for the food, no? So when I was working, if they wanted to get me to an event, they food and coffee, you know. Anyways, the other thing that's coming up that you might be interested in is this is a monthly series from EVS, EV Society. This one here it doesn't say very much about the content, but it's how AI turns EVs into grid assets. And guess who will be there? Blue Wave AI. Okay. And these get recorded too, but you can watch it live on Friday. On 3rd of February. Okay. Now I've got a list here of things that are on the agenda that we will likely participate in this year. So Gatineau Auto Show is April 10th to 12th. Okay. Kempville is April 26th. So that's the Sustainability Fair over there. That's a Sunday. The Cafes event that replaces the Sustainability Fair that we used to do with SmartNet Alliance will likely be in June. Okay. I forgot your event. The archery event was this June. Yes, the weekend of the 21st of June, I believe, right? So they are aware that they need to not do it the same weekend. Okay. So Westport Auto Show, I haven't heard from them. They want to do something big for EVs this year, but we'll see about that. Avalon Summer Festival, we did that this year, and it was there was a lot of people, so I think we should go back again. And Queenswood Heights Family Fun Day, just confirmed today that it's going to happen August 22nd. And that'll be what, the fourth year we're there, third or fourth? So anyways, then there's Pride August 22nd, 23rd, and a Taste of Wellington sometime in September. Those are the events that we have on the calendar. So as Adam said earlier in the survey, if you have other, or after you've taken the survey too, if you have other events that you would like us to participate in, let us know, and we'll see what we could do, okay?
Question, the Avalon Summer Festival, where is that?
It's in Avalon, part of Orleans, so Aquaview and what's the other? It's the Brian Coburn. Brian Coburn? Yeah, it's in Orleans.
Yeah, South Orleans.
So, yeah, it's
Oh.
that, what's that, sorry?
No, I was going to say, I'm also going to stand up and plug. This is like half the ones that like there's other ones that we've been to that aren't on this list.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I'm also now in January going to call out to the members to please join us. Come volunteer and have some fun with us. And
I forgot the Blackburn Fun Fair.
the Blackburn Fun Fair is on there. Carp Fair, which we've been to, maybe we'll see, but
we'll
like that's
see.
not on there. There's a lot of events on here or not on here, right?
Mhm.
So please come on out. We need people just to talk about what it's like to own an EV. We're generally not doing test drives anymore, so you don't have to worry about someone else driving your car. Just come there and be like, yeah, I drive an EV, no big deal, and answer their questions. Really, it's what we're there for.
Okay. So yeah, there's a few I need to add there. So not much left to say. So membership again, if you're not a member, we would encourage you to become a member. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I checked today, we're at 126 subscribers now, okay? So not very many, but it's growing slowly but surely. Anyways, so now will be the roundtable. I have two links there. Those are links to, I was interviewed by CTV News for the Chinese EV thing. And if you're interested, you could go and look at those. I managed to get a few words in there that they actually had in the story. So I talked about affordability and choice, which is what we should be getting out of the Chinese EVs.
Yeah, the like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, this is where your video will end. And please come join us live for the roundtable, which will continue now.
Okay, thank you.